right, we're doing the study guide for the Chapter 10 geometry test. Remember, there's a homework that looks like the study guide and a test that looks like the homework. We're finding the area of each. Now, it gives you the formula here on the study guide, but the formulas will not be given on the test. You will have to know them from memory. Number one, it wants the area of the square in square millimeters, and it gives you the side in square centimeters. Area of a square is side square. So we would plug in the length of a side, 7 centimeters, quantity square. We're going to distribute the square, and so we would have 7 squared is 49 centimeters square. But it wants the answers in square milli. So we need to lose the name square centi and gain the name square milli. Whoops, I wrote that upside down. I apologize. We need to lose the name square centi and gain the name square milli. So we say, which one is the big one? Well, centi is. How many of the little ones, milli, does it take to make a centi? 10. But we're not talking about centimilli. We're talking about square centi, square milli. So we square the conversion. So it becomes a 1 in 100. So we get 100 times 49 is 4,900. We lost the name centi square and gained the name milli square, or square millimeters. Okay? Any questions on number one? Okay? Number two. We want the area of the square in square millimeters. So the area of the square is side square. So we're going to take the side, which we don't know, square. So we need to find the side. Well, this is a square, so that's 90. A diagonal of a square bisects a pair of opposite angles because it's a rhombus, and so we get a 45, 45, 90 triangle. If we extract that triangle, then here's what we have. Now we're looking for the length of a side, which is a leg. In a 45, 45, 90 triangle, hypotenuse is equal to leg times the square root of 2. So we take hypotenuse 5 square root 2 is equal to leg, which is a side, times square root 2. We want to isolate the s, and so we divide square root 2. They cancel, and so we get that the side is 5. So the side is 5 millimeters. So we have 5 millimeter quantity square. We distribute that through the parenthesis. We get 5 squared is 25 millimeters square, or 25 square millimeters. Any questions on number two? Okay. Number three, we want the area of the square. So the formula for area of a square is side square. So we're going to take whatever its side is square. The diagonals of a square are perpendicular. Each angle of a square is 90. A diagonal bisects a pair of opposite angles. And so we're going to extract an isosceles right triangle, or a 45, 45, 90 triangle. and this is 3, this is 3. The side is the hypotenuse. In a 45, 45, 90, hypotenuse equal leg times the square root of 2. So the hypotenuse, which is the side, is equal to a leg, which is 3 times square root 2. So each side is 3 square root 2. We have an exponent crammed on a parenthesis, so we check for a distributive. So what we're going to have is 3 squared, which is 9 times square root 2 squared. Square root 2 squared. In that situation, the square cancels the square root and you get a 2. So we have 3 squared, square root of 2 squared. 3 squared is 9, square root of 2 squared is 2. 9 times 2 is 18. And so the area is 18. Any questions on number 3? Okay, area of a square is side square. When you draw diagonals and squares, you get 45, 45, 90 triangles. Okay. Rectangle. The formula for every rectangle is base times height or length times width. We're using base times height because a triangle is half base times height, parallelogram's base times height, trapezoid is half height sum of bases. So we're using that common language of base height. Each angle of a rectangle is 90 degrees. The base is 8 inches because it's the same as the other side. Opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. The height is how tall something is from top to bottom, so the height is there. Our formula for area, again, was base times height. And so we get area equal base, which is 8 inches, times height, which is 6 inches. When you multiply the numbers, and you multiply the names, and you get a new name, and when you multiply with like bases, you add the exponents. But it didn't want the answer in square inches, it wanted it in square feet. So we have to lose the name square inches and gain the name square feet. So we say, which one's bigger? Well, a foot, so we want one of those. How many little ones make that big one? 12. 12 inches make a foot. But we're not dealing with inches and feet. We're dealing with square inches and square feet. So we square the conversions. So 1 squared is 1, and 12 squared is 144. We're losing the name square inches, and we're gaining the name square feet. If you want to cross reduce, you can. 12 goes into 48 12 times. 12 goes into 100. Excuse me. 12 goes into 48 4 times. 12 goes into 144 12 times. Obviously, it'll reduce some more. 4 goes into 4 1 time. 4 goes into 12 3 times. What's left on top is a 1 times 1, which is 1 square foot. On bottom, we have a 1 times 3. And so it's a third of a square foot. A third of a square foot for number 4. Any questions on that? Okay. Number 5. Number 5, we're talking about the area of a rectangle. The formula for area of a rectangle is base times height. So we get area equal base, which we don't know, times the height. The height is straight down from top to bottom, 5 feet. So we can't solve until we find the base. We've got a right triangle. When we look at half that rectangle, we know two sides. We're looking for the third side, so we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. The C is the one across from the right angle, 13. So my C, which is 13 square, is equal to one leg A square plus the other leg B square, equal one leg A square plus the other leg 5 square. Now I got to white out. Give me just a second to clean up. Sorry about that. I'll just re-plug in. Probably be easier. So we're going to take our hypotenuse, which was that 13 square, is equal to A, which is 5 square, plus B, which we don't know, square. We're going to do the exponents. We get 169 equal 25 plus B square. Now we're going to undo addition by subtraction. We'll have B square equal 144. Undo the square with the square root, and so we get B equal 12. So the base is 12 feet. The height is 5 feet. We multiply. We're going to multiply the numbers 60 and multiply the names and get a new name. And when you multiply with like bases, you add the exponent, 60 square feet. But it wanted the answer in square inches. We need to lose the name feet, square feet, and gain the name square inches. So we'll say which one's bigger? Well, a foot's bigger. How many of the small ones make a foot? 12 inches make a foot. But we're not dealing with inches and feet. We're dealing with square inches and square feet. So we're going to square our conversions. 1 squared is 1. 12 squared is 144. We're losing the name feet, gaining the name inches. So we're going to have 60 times 144. We'll do that on the calculator. 60 times 144, 8,640. So 8,640 square inches. Any questions on number 5? Okay. So that was number 5. Probably should have whited that out so you would know it was number 5. That's the work for number 5. All right, now we're going to do number 6. I'm just going to white out everything else so we won't be distracted by it. We can focus on question number 6. Okay, question number 6. We want the area. Area is base, which we don't know, times height, which we don't know. So we need to find the base and height. We know that it's a rectangle. I'm going to call the base B and the height H. And we're going to use half of that rectangle, which is a right triangle, to find our base and height. We know the hypotenuse, and we've got a 40-degree angle. We're going to have to use a trigonometric ratio. So we write down the angle, which is 40 degrees. We look at the sides, see how they're related to the angle. Now the side we know is the hypotenuse. And then we got to figure out which one we want to find first. Let's say we want to find the base first. The base is the leg adjacent to the 40. Leg adjacent hypotenuse is cosine. So we have cosine 40. Cosine says you put leg adjacent B over hypotenuse 10. We can undo division by multiplication, and so we're going to multiply. Excuse me. It's off, and I keep hitting the wrong thing. I'm hitting the... Okay, I might have just lost everything. Just a second. I apologize. Come on. Come back. There we go. All right. So we're going to multiply both sides by 10. So I'm going to have 10 times cosine 40. And so to get the base, we're going to go 10 cosine 40. Make sure my calculator's on degrees. It is. No, it's on radians. See, I better change it. Good thing I checked. I really didn't think it was. So I wanted 10 cosine 40. Which is 7.66 rounded, 7.66. So there's my base, 7.66. I want to find the height. I'm going to go ahead and set up another trigonometric ratio. Could do the Pythagorean theorem, but we rounded, so I'd rather not. When we look at the height, it's the leg opposite the 40. We'd write down our angle 40. Looking for h, we have leg opposite and hypotenuse. Leg opposite hypotenuse is sine. Sine says you put leg opposite over hypotenuse. So there's our trigonometric ratio. To solve for h, we're going to undo division by multiplication. So for height, we're going to have 10 sine 40. So we go to the graphing calculator. 10 sine 40. 6.43. 6.43. So we use trigonometric ratios to find the base and height. Now we're going to find the area, 7.66 and 6.43. $49.25 rounded. $49.25. Any questions on the rectangles? Area of a square is side square. Area of a rectangle is base times height. We're not giving you the parts lots of times, and you're having to use properties of rectangles, rhombuses, squares, trapezoids, parallelograms, 30, 60, 90 right triangle rules, Pythagorean theorem, trigonometric ratios, isosceles triangle theorem, all kinds of stuff to find the missing pieces and parts. And we're doing unit of measure conversions. We want the area of a parallelogram is base times height. The base is the bottom, one of the sides. Opposite sides are equal, so the bottom is 12 centimeters since the top was. Opposite sides of a parallelogram are equal. The height is the straight down 6. The height is not that other side, 8, because it's crooked. Swamper jawed, as I call it. So the base is 12 and the height is 6. So area is base 12 centimeters times height 6 centimeters. We're going to multiply the numbers and get 72 and multiply the names and get a new name. And when you multiply with like bases, you add the exponents. So it's 72 square centimeters. And there was no need for a unit of measure conversion there. Any questions on number 7? Okay. Number 8. I'm just going to cover up 7, so if somebody taps in while we're working into the middle of a video, they'll know what problem I'm really working on. Should have done that before. Area of a rectangle, of a parallelogram is base times height. So we're going to take the area of the base. Opposite sides are equal. So the base is 24 millimeters. Times the height, which is that dotted line, which we don't know. So my height is that dotted line out there. If we extract that triangle, we have 17 millimeters, 8 millimeters, and our height. That's 2 out of 3 sides of the right triangle, so we can solve with the Pythagorean theorem, because that was a right angle. C squared equal A squared plus B squared. The C is always the one across from the right angle, so we take hypotenuse square equal one leg h squared plus the other leg h squared. We're going to do the exponents. So we're going to have 289 is equal to 64 plus h squared. And now we're going to undo. We're going to subtract 64. We'll get 225 is equal to h squared. We're going to get rid of the square with the square root. And so we get the height is 15 millimeters. So now we multiply. Area is base times height, so we multiply the numbers. 15 times 24 is 360. Millimeter times millimeter is square millimeter. We need to lose the name square millimeter and gain the name square centimeter. Centimeters the bigger. It takes 10 milli to make a centi. We're not dealing with milli and centi. We're dealing with square milli and square centi, so we square the conversions. That makes this a 1 and that a 100. When you divide by 100, it shifts the decimal 2 places. So we'll have the area is 3.6. We're losing the name square milli, and we're gaining the name square centi. Any questions on number 8? Okay. Number 9. Number 9, we have a parallelogram. Area of a parallelogram is base times height. So we're going to have area is base, which is 20. Top is 20, so the bottom is 20. Times the height, which we don't know. Well, how are we going to find it? Well, this is a parallelogram, so if this angle is 70 degrees, then that angle in the corner is 70 degrees. So we're going to extract that little triangle. This is 70 degrees. That's a right angle, and this is 10. We're looking for the height. We're going to have to set up a trigonometric ratio, so we put our acute angle. 10 is the hypotenuse. The H is the leg opposite. Leg opposite, hypotenuse is sine. Sine says you put leg opposite over hypotenuse. So we have our trigonometric ratio. We can solve by cross multiplying, or we can undo division by multiplication. Either way, we get height is 10 sine 70. We can go to the calculator. 10 sine 70. Should have closed it, but it's still going to be the same. 9.4 rounded. And so the height is 9.4. So we multiply and get our area. 9.4 times 20. We could have just said times 20 without rounding. 188. Any questions on number 9? Okay. So we've found the areas of some squares, areas of some rectangles. We just found the areas of some parallelograms. Now we're going to move to triangles. A triangle is half of a rectangle and half of a parallelogram. So its formula is half of their formula, half base times height. So we have area is 1/2 base times height. So we're going to get area equal 1/2 times the base. The base is the bottom. Times the height. The height is how tall it is if it's setting on its bottom, and how tall it is straight down. 7 inches. When we multiply, we're going to multiply the numbers. Half of 8 is 4 times 7 is 28. And multiply the names and get a new name. And when you multiply with like bases, you add the exponents, and so you get square inches. It wanted the answer in square inches, so that's it. Okay. Any questions on number 10? Okay, number 11. Number 11, area is 1/2 base times height. The base has to be a side of the triangle. We only know one side of a triangle, and it's 10. So you may have to kind of lean your head sideways. I could copy and paste and spin this. But we're talking about 10 being the base, so we're thinking about this being ground level. If that's ground level, then this is the top of the triangle, and so the height would be straight down to the ground. You got to kind of lean sideways just a little bit. Lean your right ear towards the floor. And you can see that if 10 is the base to the bottom, then from the top of that thing to the bottom is 6, and so 6 is our height. So the base is 10, the only side of the triangle we knew, and the height is the height that goes with that base. So we get area is half of 10 is 5 times 6 is 30, so the area is 30. Any questions on number 11? Number 12. If you memorized that shortcut formula for a 30, 60, 90 triangle, then number 12 you know is half a side square, square roots of 3. Half a side square, square roots of 3. Half of 8 is 4. Square is 16 square roots of 3. Half of a side squared, square roots of 3. Now, if you didn't know that, then we've got to do a little bit of logic. Here's how we would begin if we didn't know that. We'd say area is 1/2 times the base, which is 8, times the height, which we don't know. Well, the height is from the top straight down to the bottom, 90 degrees. Well, this is an equilateral triangle, which is also equiangular, so each angle is 60. The height is the bisector of the vertex angle of an isosceles triangle, the isosceles triangle theorem. And it's perpendicular to the base at its midpoint. So if we extract one of those, this is 90, this is 60, this is 30, this is 8. The base got bisected, so this is 4 and 4. In a 30, 60, 90 triangle, long leg equals short leg times the square root of 3. The long leg is the height, so height equals short leg 4 times the square root of 3, so the height is 4 square root 3. So now we're going to multiply the numbers and multiply the names. Half of 8 is 4 times 4 is 16. There's the numbers, and the name square root 3 tags along. Any questions on areas of triangles? So here on the first page, we've taken a look at the area of a square, every rectangle, every parallelogram, and area of a triangle. I'm going to stop there and divide this into two sections.